11:30, we have arranged for a one-on-one session with the Dell leadership and your peer leaders, for which we would personally come and hand over our partner cards right now. Could we have the representatives to do the same, please? We have the partner cards. My next question, non-summit question, to the only lady here. Oh, she was right here. You! Unless there are more ladies. Married?
No.
Me too. What a coincidence. Now, quickly, I'm going to give you two sentences in English. You need to pick the right sentence, the first or the second sentence. Ready? The yolk of the egg is white, or the yolk of the egg are white. Which is the right sentence, first or second?
Or the first.
Both are wrong. The yolk of the egg is yellow. Enjoy your next session. May I call upon our next speaker on stage? He is the Director for Enterprise Solutions Business. Please welcome S. Sridhar onto the stage and about that. Over to you, Sridhar.
Thank you, Prithvi. I learned something. The yolk of the egg is yellow. Thank you. I take care of the Enterprise Solutions business for Dell in India. And this has got everything to do with the data center and the cloud portfolio. Am I audible at the back? Yeah, okay. That said, let me start off with a question. I always like to take a first-hand feedback from outside. You heard a lot of Dell speak. First, what are the top three things that come to your mind when somebody asks you about Dell? Some lights on. Some lights on. What are the top three things that come to your mind? Yes? Customize. Then? Anyone else? Sorry? Service, support. Okay. What else? Efficient. Sorry? Delivery. Okay. Yeah, thank you. What else? Huh? Direct. Yeah, sure. What else? Yes. Quality. Thank you. What else? Inspiron. Great. Price. Okay. These, sorry? Ongoing process of getting newer and newer products into the Dell portfolio. That exactly is the thrust of my presentation for the next maybe 20-25 minutes. If you had asked the same question about any of the other competitors, 9 out of 10 would not have been associated with them. And I started off by stating what I do. I take care of the enterprise solutions portfolio, which has got to cater with data center and cloud solutions. And I'm fairly certain that maybe barring a secondary association to some of the points that you said, most of you did not answer about what I do. And that exactly is my next slide. For the year 2012, Dell was awarded across 4 different categories: server, storage hardware, data center transformation services, and data center consulting. So henceforth, lady and gentlemen, the next time somebody asks you, what are the top 3 things that you can remember about Dell? There is more to answer. And these are not an award given by a publication because we have advertised in them. These are not an award given by a website because we created a microsite there. These are awards given by CIOs. Customers believe we have top class products and solutions across these categories, and that's the reason why they chose us. And I want, hopefully at the end of my presentation, I would want you to go back with the thought process that if I'm not talking about these, maybe I'm missing an opportunity to engage with the customers more completely. Right? So what I intend doing is to divide my presentation into 3 compartments. The first one is about what do the customers want? It's a very, very changed world today. Gartner and IDC have come up with some inputs. So I'm actually going to present them to you. And then we have done some surveys and we've done some analysis and discussions with customers, and what exactly came out of those discussions as to what the customers prefer and how is the world shifting from where it was in the past to where it is now. And thereafter, look at what is the Dell's point of view? In between, I'll talk a little bit about how competitors are approaching this solution landscape and how we are different. So that's the second part of my second compartment of the presentation. And lastly, all of this is useless until we learn to win together. So the last part is dedicated into what we can do together, and I'll spend some time on that as well. Okay? By now you should have got used to this form factor of a slide. There is a lot of numbers, but let me focus a little bit on a few of them. 241 billion cloud spending by the year 2020. To put it in context, by next year, the overall market is expected to be about 3 trillion and could be about 3.5, 3.6 trillion by 2020. So 241 billion is the spending, right? 70% CXOs expect to see a significant or a complete IT overhaul in the next 3 years. Which means there is so much opportunity for us to go engage with the CIOs and see exactly what they want. 2x x86 server virtualization in the next 3 years. Now, the global average is about 40, moving to 80. India is in the low 20s. Definitely virtualization is coming and here to stay. 2:1 CEOs who involve the CIO in business strategy recognize superior financial performance. So if a CIO is part of framing the business strategy and not just fulfilling an IT requirement, then the company stands to gain. And our primary audience is the CIO. So how do we actually appeal to them? I'm going to talk about it. I don't know if any of you can figure out how many zeros are there. 2.5 quintillion. I don't know. Right? But that many bytes of data are being created every day. And a point to note, the year 2009 was a very, very critical inflection point for the storage industry. That was the first year when the amount of storage capacity sold was lesser than the amount of data generated. Which meant, till then, so much more data was being generated. But the capacity that was being sold was always higher than the data being generated. But thereafter, in the next 3-4 years, the capacity sold is left way behind. So it points to two things. There is phenomenal growth of data. And what with the social media taking over and with our having to pass so much of information and photographs and videos, the simplest thing for me to do is to mail this presentation to all of you here, and I have created maybe 100 times 7 MB. Very simple. That's the way things are growing. It's completely uncontrolled. That's the amount of data being generated. 43% of CXOs say that their companies will increasingly use IT as a commodity. And Richard alluded to it when he talked about consumerization of IT. 68% of server-related expenses was on management. So it was not on the server box. 1 in 6 CIOs are only consulted or have no role. I'm sorry. Are not part of the business strategy. Read this along with the other one. 2:1 CEOs who involve get the benefit. So obviously, we have to ensure that we appeal to the CIO and get the CIO to be able to present appropriately to his management. 50x is the rate of growth of managed data in the next decade. So all this points to a significant amount of growth, a phenomenal rate of change of IT infrastructure and the way of consuming IT infrastructure. Right? Now let's flip to what Gartner says. If you look at it, on the left side of the table, you have what they call as the business priorities. On the right side, you've got what is called as the technology priorities. So you can read through them, but a couple of them I can just talk through. For example, increasing enterprise growth. And the technology priority is talked about as analytics and business intelligence. One of the biggest changes that have happened to any industry today is that from a time point where people were talking about, here is the biggest and the brightest and the best product, please take it. From that to actually looking at what does a customer want? Who is my customer? What is their purchasing pattern? What is their usage model? What is the kind of application that they are putting it to use for? Be it IT, be it anything else. So the idea has shifted from the product to the customer. Which means you need to understand your consumer better, their usage models better. Who is the customer? What demography? Which part of the country? Is there a purchasing pattern difference between the different geographies in the country? So there is a phenomenal amount of interest generated in understanding the customer. CIO has to appeal to the CEO. He needs to go talk about, I would like to increase the enterprise growth. I would like to help you understand the customers better. I would like to ensure that our product, our time to market is shrunk to the most in reaching our customers. So that is the way in which a CIO is now expected to converse with the CEO. And who can help them? Most of us in this room. So that's the level of information that is available in this particular slide. It talks about improving efficiency and hence maybe a CRM, attracting and retaining workforce. It could be bring your own device, or it could be anytime, anywhere connectivity, or things like virtualization. And of course, everything needs to be secure. So this is what Gartner says. Let's switch to what IDC says. They're talking about what is called as the third platform. Do you see that here? So the third platform, for those who cannot see, I can read this for you. It says mobile devices and applications. It talks about mobile broadband, social business, big data and cloud analytics, and it talks about cloud services. And as you see the staggered ladder going up from the bottom, right at the bottom is what is called as mainframe. And second platform is internet and client server. And this is exactly, maybe some of the presentations for those of you who were there last year or who have seen Dell's presentations in some other forum, you would have seen that we are talking about the evolution of the various eras. From the mainframe era, where you had the biggest and the most powerful computer and all of the others being dumb terminals around it, to the mini era, where it got smaller in sizes, but with a little bit more capability at the edges. And then moving into client server, where you had the peer-to-peer architecture, then moving to internet era, where there was anytime, anywhere connectivity, to actually the virtual era, where it's connected anything and virtual everything. With that kind of an evolution, you could see that there is no single player who has excelled in every single era. And what's going to define the next era is what IDC calls as the third platform. 90% of the IT industry growth will be driven by the third platform, right? And they go on to explain that the third platform is now the real IT industry. 80% of the competitive energy should be on this platform, which means all of us together need to comprehend what this third platform is. What is big data? What is cloud? What is analytics? What do we have to do in terms of enabling this virtualized environment? How do we want to provide an environment in which our customer is able to leverage this infrastructure and deliver what is right for their business? That understanding is super critical for us to succeed. This has a critical impact on the way the purchasing happens. Emerging IT trends are actually shifting how the purchase happens. Look at this. Bring your own device. You can see here, the CAGR of bring your own device is 37% from 2011 to 2015. The cloud CAGR is 22%. The cloud and converged infrastructure in the same time period. That's the way in which the purchasing pattern is shifting. So which obviously means we need to understand what exactly this means and how do we take it forward, and most important, how is Dell different in this story? Right? Some of the other predictions. This says by 2016, Indian IT outsourcing providers are obviously, for visa restrictions or whatever, they're going to set up more and more insourcing in countries. By 2016, at least 30% of the domestic IT work volume will move into tier 2 cities. And now map this to what Vikas spoke about just a while back on what we call as the emerging cities. The top 8 cities are what we are focusing on largely, but the next 11 cities are the emerging cities that we've increased our focus upon. And that presents itself as a great opportunity. By 2017, at least 2 of the top IT services providers could merge. We'll see who that is. By 2015, mobile payment will emerge as the top revenue generator. Obviously, with the mobile revolution catching up and with so many M-payment gateways being created, that's going to be a big opportunity. So anybody who enables that in the application is king. Any consumer-facing customers of yours who enables a mobile payment, or if you're able to deliver them a solution whereby they can enable mobile payment for their IT infrastructure, will look at you more favorably than the others. By 2017, 1/4 of the data centers in India will use renewable energy sources. We've got a certain method of building data centers. Obviously, one of the best things to do would be to look at assessing the data center and creating a sort of a consulting framework whereby we would be able to deliver data centers of tomorrow. Don't have to look far. Dell has won the award for data center consulting from CIOs themselves. So we're here to help you. We'll work together and understand what do our customers want and how do we build the data center of tomorrow with them. Right? So this is overall what the predictions are. And hence, all this points to the 4 areas. First one, acceleration and adoption. Virtualization, convergence, and cloud. How do you enable ubiquitous access? Embrace consumerization. Bring your own device and beyond. It's here to stay. You don't have any option but to fall in line. Turn data into insights. This is very, very important. Gone are the days where you can actually measure return on investment from your storage investment. You've got to look at return on information. When data is converted into information and the information becomes an insight, and that insight is used to invest in business development, and that business developments enable their business to prosper, that is truly the return on the investment, and hence it is called return on information. So turning data into insights, whether you call it big data, whether you call it analytics, you call it data warehousing as in past lingo, ultimately how are you able to extract information? Pieces of data by themselves don't mean anything, right? And lastly, overcome the evolving security threat. The moment a customer talks to us about cloud, one thing will be about which kind of devices, or is my application ready? But almost the 1.5th question is it secure? How many of you haven't faced this? How many of you haven't faced this when you talk to your consumers about cloud? Hardly any. So clearly, the question is about how do you keep your environment secure? Solution approaches, however, will differ from player to player. Right? We look at convergence very, very simplistically. It is not a new phenomenon. It is not something new. It is something that was already available, but it is important to understand its implementation. If you recall, by about the year 2000, many of us were probably in the industry then as well. At that point of time, how many of you recall there was a discussion about how PC is becoming the center of the digital world, of the digital universe, right? There was a video ecosystem, which is your video player and whatever goes with it. There was an audio ecosystem, which is your music system and what goes with it. And there was a digital ecosystem where you had the PC. And there was this thought process that there is going to be convergence, and hence these devices will be dead and there is only going to be the PC. And then we suddenly figured out, oh no, the TV screen is not meant for distance viewing. It is meant only for viewing from much closer distance than a TV. So gradually things started evolving. We couldn't figure out what convergence was. But guess what? The convergence actually happened in the pipe that reached your house. The internet pipe, the telephone pipe, anything that happens there is just one single wire that comes into your house today. Yes? Which is the reason why a traditional telephone player is today a leading digital television player as well. And rather than losing out one of the devices, rather than letting one of the devices die, you actually have more devices occupying your time today. You probably use 4 devices today. Maybe a physical workstation in office, a laptop at home, maybe a smartphone when you're on the going to board a plane or whatever, and maybe a tablet when you're in your car. Did we ever think that this was possible? Similarly, the convergence in the core of the infrastructure has to be dealt with in at least 3 parts. One is convergence at the core. The day when your compute, your storage, as well as your network begins to converse in a converged environment, that's really what convergence is about. And today we are probably the only player who's got a compute, a storage, as well as a network being able to converse with each other from a single backplane. Nobody else in the industry gives you that. So it starts there. Then comes convergence in operations. How do you manage your operation? Because we've increasingly created 3 different disparate environments and probably a 4th emerging one. There is a management for a compute environment, there is a management for a storage environment, there is a management for a networking environment. And on top of it, you're trying to make all these environments coexist. So somebody will have to physically look at all these reports and manually generate a 4th report for you to get something meaningful. No wonder why in the first slide you saw 68% of the expenses on servers went towards management. And how many of you know that the 12th generation servers that we are now selling is actually the 2nd generation of agent-free monitoring for us. Whereas for our competitor, it is path-breaking for them in their 8th generation. For us, it is the 2nd generation. And they are even today not agent-free. We are truly agent-free. And that is a matter of pride for us because 70% of the population of engineers sitting here in Bagamani Tech Park R&D Center have developed it. So truly made in India for the world. So next time when you meet your customer and you sell a Dell server, please tell them, please check the management software. 68% of the expenses have gone towards management alone. Please compare the management software and not just the speeds and feeds of the hardware. That's the second part. The third part, you've got to bring convergence in the applications and services delivery. The moment you're able to bring all the three together in the right kind of contiguous platform, you have enabled the customer's journey to the cloud. And what is competition doing? A two-letter competition believes it is a very fragmented approach. When you want to buy something at the top of the stack, you've got to buy everything underneath that. And it is extremely fragmented with multiple pieces. They are trying to figure out themselves what do they want to do with it. There is a three-letter competition who's got extremely complex. You want to succeed with something, it has to be complex. And then they have to be there. That's the way they look at business. There is a six-letter competition under whom somebody else shines brightly. They just believe in keeping things costly. And there is a five-letter competition who has been talking about converged communication, but the fact is, the sorry state of affairs is, we've got converged solutions which are far ahead of what they can talk about. What they talk about as the converged communications manager is not even comparable to our blade systems manager. When our active system manager does come by the later part of the year, we're going to leave them far behind. We'll be miles and streets ahead of them. And what they will not tell you, that they believe network is the world. They want to protect their network infrastructure. And in doing so, they are creating proprietary infrastructure, thereby proprietary protocols, thereby locking up the customer. So the question that you've got to ask is, which is the converged path that you want to take? You definitely want to take no trade-offs, and at the same time, you want to ensure that there is peaceful coexistence of a hybrid environment. Dell believes in that strategy. We don't have any legacy, we will not defend any legacy. So ultimately, when you come back to what are the customer's decision-making criteria, you will find that it is easy for us to think about, I want to do in finance vertical, I want to do something in telecom vertical. Yes, there is a space for some level of vertical approach at the top of the stack. But what is underneath that is predominantly horizontal. And I think Richard alluded to that in his presentation as well. This is something that we learned when we polled a set of CIOs. This is an outcome of a survey that Dell did on CIOs. Okay. The first thing that they talk about is the business of the organization. What matters to them is their business, the business plans, the growth areas, customer demography, information management, selling to the board. This is an interesting point. One of the CIOs who was there in the room, and I was addressing a set of CIOs, one of them said, how do you deal with insecurity of the people who are in the recipient department? The moment you introduce something in the supply chain clerk is worried that his job is gone. And dealing with that insecurity, is it a job of IT or is it a job of the business practitioner? Have you ever faced this? You faced this? On the other hand, I met another CIO in Bombay. in a conversation, he was telling me, what innovation? I'm ready. His approach was completely different. He's on the part of, he's a part of a business operating team which discusses the different types of projects that are needed. So he says, I've got a modified De Bono hat. So when I talk to the supply chain manager, I talk his language. When I talk to the marketing manager, I talk his language. But ultimately, he says, my next 6 projects are ready. My next 6 projects are ready. Any business or any part of the business or any functional leader, if he wants to implement, let him invest the money, let him implement that. Clearly, that means what? He has shifted the responsibility of dealing with the insecurity on the business. The capability to deal with the business planning, which is useful to them for their business, which means they put the money. You put the money where your mouth is. Get the money in, ensure that you deal with insecurity, and I will give you the IT infrastructure. So I've seen 2 different types of CIOs in a matter of the last 1 month. But it's interesting that selling to the board and dealing with insecurity is becoming an important problem, which means we've got a good role to play in being able to educate them and help them succeed. Business model, all these deal with business model and business product innovation. So clearly, I think if we are able to understand the customer's business, their competition, and what helps them, we would be able to succeed better. Second, accommodating new age trends. This is a little different from their business. BYOD, I have to manage them. Tablets, I have to handle them. Social media, I have to enable. Gone are the times when I can live in denial. Gone are the times when I can say that I'm going to block all social media sites. It's here to stay. It's up to the organization as to how you leverage it. Ajay spoke about how we've been a leading social media exponent in India, and we use social media as a feedback mechanism. We've got a social media command center right here in India as well, where we poll social media sites for various kinds of feedback, good or bad. When there is something bad, we have somebody actually directly calling that particular customer. So it's up to you how you want to use it. That's the message that CIOs now tell the businesses, which means we need to help them to be able to manage the new age infrastructure. And obviously, optimizing. What I'm doing, I need to do better. What I'm doing, I need to remove some costs. That goes without saying, right? So increasingly, CIOs are looking for who knows these things best. Increasingly, CIOs are looking for specialization and not necessarily big bang, path-breaking stuff. So clearly, looking back at what I mentioned to you and looking at this now, there is obvious opportunity for us to work together in appealing to the CIOs in these lines, right? I'll switch and talk about what the Dell solution story hence is. There was a time when we had this kind of an infrastructure. You see the kind of applications here, a Fortran, a COBOL, different flavors of Unix, a network of interconnected resources. How do we deal with all of them? A completely messed up infrastructure at the bottom. This is from where we start, and this is where we need to get. You see, number one, it's about transformation. Number two, it's about business class connected devices, right? Number three is about intelligent converged infrastructure, what I just spoke about. 4 is about cloud delivery and management. It is about bringing convergence at the services and applications delivery layer. 5th, I spoke about it in length, which is information management. And lastly, the foundation, which is keeping it secure. Now, if you need to move from here to here, and if you need to create a contiguous infrastructure, there is a lot of expectation. And in the process, what have we done as Dell? If you look at it, each and every one of the acquisitions that we have made enables us to compete in one or more of these solution areas. Starting from a transformation to a business class connected devices, to cloud, to information management, to security, to intelligent infrastructure, you've got an opportunity to compete across the entire spectrum of data center requirements for all your customers. One or the other or more acquisition of Dell enables you to compete in a single space, and a single acquisition of Dell enables you to compete in multiple spaces. That is the strength of the solution that we provide, and here is why. In 2009, by then we had made only one acquisition, that of EcoLogic, which is even today the leading iSCSI, not just in the world, but also in India. We started off there. That was the only acquisition, and we participated in certain parts of the market. In 2010, it was an eventful year. We made about 8 acquisitions in that year. Look at the acquisition names at the bottom. Exanet and Ocarina were in storage. Exanet enabled us to provide unified file systems. Ocarina is the world leader in dedupe and compression technologies. So both of them are integrated into our solution portfolio, into our storage portfolio. Boomi for cloud implementation services. Scalent, which forms the foundation for our advanced infrastructure management suite of offerings. Case, Vikas spoke about this. This is more from distributed device management. It's about patch management. It is about managing the endpoint devices far more easier than with deployed manpower. And then we moved into 2011, where we made a few more acquisitions. Memory virtualization with a company called RNA. Security with this company called SecureWorks, which enabled us to deliver managed security services to our customers. And by the year 2012, we made a few more acquisitions. Data protection with SonicWall, with Weiss, which gave us the endpoint terminals, and mobile devices management solutions. So this made our solution framework completely comprehensive. So which means, look at it from 2 perspectives. 1, the 6 areas of transformation that I talked about, all the acquisitions fit in. This slide is to tell you that the 4 areas of IT that I talked about from a customer purchase, whether it is from a connected devices or integrated optimized enterprise or mitigation of risk and flexible next generation services, the 4-point framework, all our acquisitions exactly fall in line. So it falls in line from customer expectation as well as from data center implementation purposes. So obviously, it provides you the best possible portfolio to integrate and start working on, because go with pride that we are the number 1 cloud infrastructure solution providers. 8 out of the 10 leading Web 2.0 companies use our infrastructure. Number 1 iSCSI, I spoke about it. Number 1 Blade in performance and price. 90% of Fortune 1000 companies use Dell software. 4 of the 5 top search engines use Dell. 75% of the top social media websites are powered by Dell, and 2.4 billion malware attacks blocked in the year 2011. That is the strength of the portfolio that we deliver to you. Now it's about how do we work together. I'm reaching the last compartment of my presentation. How do we work and win together? You can start anywhere. Vikas spoke about this and gave you hints about where exactly we can begin working. Just look at this. Look at the number of subgroups. Imagine what has happened to them over the last 10 to 15 years. Initially, they were competing with just the people within their special economic zone or within their industrial estate. But today, they are competing with unknown faces in Indonesia and Thailand and Costa Rica and Mexico. They hardly know who their competitors are. So they've got to be ready for the world. So this set of companies, many of them who were 5 crores and 10 crore companies then are today touching 500 crore plus in terms of their size. They obviously need a lot of professionalism in the way they manage their IT. It's a great opportunity for us. It is ever evolving. India is the land of mid-market. Except for the top 100 groups, 150 groups in India, I think everything else is mid-market, right? That's a great opportunity. Many of you know the government vertical. There is enough opportunity for us to work across central government, state government, various projects, touching various departments, looking at different government establishments. How do we go to nodal agencies and get ourselves empaneled? There is so much opportunity for us to keep working together and developing them. I'm not touching the large account space because there's a lot of complications. You can go by vertical, you can go by organization size, but that still presents itself a lot of opportunity. Or you may want to choose a particular solution area. Data center refresh, I talked about it. Data center refresh is happening by the day. Application and workload management is happening. You see the industry driver and you see the impact of that. Third, any key technology area around the cloud. Look at them at the right. I've got some of these here. This is unified computing. The second one is virtual desktop. Third one is about managing the data center. The fourth one here is server consolidation. The fifth one is storage consolidation. And the last is about data center optimization. Pick any particular solution area. There is one partner amongst you who has actually chosen VDI as their chosen area of performance. And we've put together a program whereby we can go to the market with VDI solutions. So either pick a vertical or pick a government establishment route or look at any particular solution area. Then how do we proceed? How do we win together? From your side, create a business plan, identify and agree on a set of priority accounts, which will be marked. The others, the world is open. Understand and internalize the difference that Dell brings to the solution space. I have just touched the surface in the last 20 odd minutes. But there is so much to the Dell portfolio than what I've just shown. If you internalize this information, there is so much value that each of your team members can present when they talk to the customers. Plan for joint engagements, any sort of presentations, proof of concept centers, workshop, and definitely expand into mid-market. On our side, what is the responsibility? And I'm not stopping short of it. Sign up this identified set of accounts for auto DR because Vikas spoke about it and it can happen pretty much across the board. Automatic deal registration should happen and auto approval should happen. Help with demo equipment or not for resale offers. Support with the right solutioning initiatives. Manpower hiring and training. Appropriately involve all the resources that we have at your disposal. Vikas spoke about it. For good or for bad, every acquisition has got a sizable India presence. We've got solution showcases. We've got the capability to get customers into those centers and be able to, seeing is believing. So we should be able to showcase those solutions. We have seen a lot of success with some of our targeted large accounts. But if we together map a set of accounts and try and leverage all these resources, sky is the limit to what we can achieve. So you looked at what the customers want, what are their challenges, how have their purchasing model changed over the years, and what is the expectation over the next few years, and then moved into how is Dell's portfolio different from all this, and how is our approach pretty much precise in terms of what the customer wants, and finally, how do we work together and how do we win? Sell more Dell and sell more enterprise. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.